Okay, it's Tuesday. We're in the wonderful, vibrant place of Cavan in Ireland, which is, I must say, is probably one of the most best places we've been to so far. One of my great-grandfathers was actually born here in Cavan, which is quite interesting. And more so that from the Fordham line of things, but from the Neville line of things, there's so much reference to the Red Rose. And when you go around the cathedral, which Janice has taken some lovely photographs of, you're going to see, we couldn't really film in there because there's people praying, and I think we need to respect that, but quite rightfully so. But there's some wonderful things when you go into there. You've got in the sort of southwest corner of the actual cathedral, you've got a wonderful pictation of the resurrection, as it were, and there's so much in that particular painting, and the actual, you know, the stained glass, there's so much in there to be seen. When we go across to the main high altar, which we were privileged to walk across the high altar there in the cathedral, whether we should or not, it begs the question. But we went to the high altar. There's a wonderful statue of the would-be Mary, but I didn't see her as a Mary at all. I saw her more as a sort of holder of life. And what was interesting is, again, she was clutching the red and white roses. So there's a certain theme in this cathedral in Cavan to the red rose, and quite rightfully so. It's the same one that the Neville line uses, as it were. The cathedral itself was built in 1152, but it's very much on land that was used for centuries beforehand, especially when we go back to the rebellion days and the wars. Certainly this was a main focal point, and we're going back to the early 400, 500 CE Common Era at this point in time, really. So you've got a lot of history there to look at. It certainly feels very nice and very warming into the south and western quadrant of the cathedral. And anyone that comes here, I implore you to go and have a look there and spend some time there and contemplate, really. It's a very, really nice cathedral in Cavan, and I say Janice took some lovely pictures that you're bound to see. Good. Okay, great, we're still in Ireland. What a wonderful country. Anyone who has never been to Ireland really must. It's a beautiful place. We're staying in a wonderful place on the far east coast, sort of northeast coast, Ballyunan, just before the Northern Ireland border. And we've travelled today from Ballyunan right the way up to Cavan, which has been a beautiful place, and we've seen a beautiful cathedral there, Cavan Cathedral. Absolutely nice. And then we've travelled straight across Westland, now headed right up to here where we are now, which is Black Lion, on the outskirts of Black Lion. And it's quite interesting and personal for me, because on my ancestry trail, this is where my full bloodline started from when they came across to these lands, to be them later to become Lord of the Isles, as they would be known. So this is St Patrick's Church. It was basically done a lot of work, a lot of reform, a lot of rebuilding in 1930 and 1932. But the current building was built in 1846. However, if anyone looks online, you can see the stages of development. This is a relatively new addition, the main bell tower, which is quite nice, and it's just an amazing piece. But it's nice how they sort of blended it all into the structure. And let's just go inside now. It's quite, there's an irony here somewhere, I think, because the church also has live wire, live feed, like a lot of churches do these days. I mean, here you've got the wonderful Celtic cross at the bottom, which makes total sense. You've got the Magdalene Mary, whichever you want to classify her as, and you've got the Son of God wrapped in the wings of a dove for peace. So you've got all that peace going on, and balance, security, stability. I guess that's what the land's always known back. Bearing in mind, this area, it had its first settlement, as I said, in 500 AD. That's the first recorded settlement, from where they've come across from the main Europa and then come straight in. But to find such a church like this, in such wonderful condition, in such a remote area, is amazing, really, to be fair. So let's have a little pop in. I'm not quite sure if there's any lights to go on, actually, but never mind. I think we can see. Have you got enough lighting? Just asking my camera lady if she's got enough lighting, really. So you can see what an amazing church. It just sort of jumps at you when you first see it. You can see, whether you saw when we came in, you've got 3 circles, 3 points leading to the actual altar itself. And they've all got this wonderful, and it's all marble, it's wonderful, the dove for the sign of peace, and it's just a wonderful representation. And it's built within the actual concentric star, the cross star, at central points, which is quite nice. So you've got the points of the compass with the dove of peace. What's interesting mostly is the dove is heading northeast. If you consider that to be the compass points, so that being north, east, south and west, then the dove is heading to the northeastern quadrant. Now, I'm going to make an assumption there, dare I use that word assumption, but as we know, the first cornerstone that ever goes into a building of any stonemason, the first stone laid is always in the northeastern quadrant. And so it would make sense that you say that if we want to have peace from a dove, then we have the peace there. So we've got the main dove there going out from the northeast quadrant. As we said, the cornerstones of any stonemason would be the first corner is the northeast, where you first start to build your temple, your church. Let's have a little walk round now. And it's got a wonderful feeling to it. You can see this is a really loved church and very much used church in the area, which is and you see that across Ireland. On the mainland of England, you don't really see the churches being used as they should be, but here on Ireland, you do. You see, there's a good sense of community. And people are really friendly. They're always friendly, which is nice. I think the cleaners have just arrived to do some cleaning and stuff, or they're just using the toilets. There are wonderful little votives down there. I don't know how far we get. We can just get you up on the marble step here, which is a wonderful piece, just to show you the stained glass windows, which are truly magnificent. And we can see up there, I don't know how much you want to pan up to there to see the main parts. You've got St Patrick there, you've got the Kyril. Some people say Cheerio, it's the Kyril. Look at the wonderful here, look at the wonderful artwork on the marble again. The dove is going to the northeast side, the northeast of peace, the foundation of peace. Now, what I like about this, you've got the 2 pillars of Zoab and the Kaj, or as Freemasons would call it, Boaz and Yarkin, which is totally wrong. It's an acronym, it's a hidden way of words. So there's a little bit of symbology there in regards to the pillars and the 2 pillars. I mean, you could say that one's wisdom and one's strength. And you could then argue that the dove is the sign of beauty, peace being beautiful, so therefore that would be beautiful in itself. But as we come up here to the main window here, there's 2 main stained glass windows here, which are rather nice in feature. And we can see, we'll start from the top. You've got the Kira at the top there, which is rather interesting. And the Kira, as we know, has been used since to mark the sign of Christ, or the Christ, the anointed. Not necessarily an individual person. It refers to a series of people who would have received anointment, i.e. a blessing. And then we come down to the red and white cross. We can see a Templar form there. And then we come on to where St Patrick is actually, look how his hands are. They're absolutely fascinating how he's got his hands in a certain symbolic way to represent. Yes, he's holding a book, but the hands are in a certain symbolic way of prayer. Coming down, we can see what I would interpret as a red rose onto the middle right side, and some flames. And if you come further down, we can see that we've actually got the beautiful piece of like local history there. But on the right there, we've got the clover. You see the three-leaf clover. And there's 3 lots of clover there as well to represent the island. Yeah. Now what's also interesting, I don't know whether you saw, but around the edge of the gilt, as it goes round, you've got the triskelion and you've got the clover. So you've got actually 6 clovers and you've actually got 4 triskelions, which are sort of embedded into there, which is quite nice. Nice feature to see. But it's so beautifully done. I mean, it must be, to find such a treasure this remote into Ireland. Let's go around and see the other side of the stained glass window there. And as we see here, on this particular stained glass window, we've got the cross, the flag. It's sort of a style that's a bit mismatched really. But we come down, and what's most significant is the royal blue, the blue robes. And you can see he's wearing his medallion around his neck. Now some would argue that this is the Asutra, this is Noah, saving the humanity and bringing them to land. I would say that's more about the transition of migrational people coming from Europa onto what is known today as Ayers Island and bringing them onto here in the ship. So this would be about migrational pattern, almost like a pilgrimage really, I guess. And then at the bottom there you've got the dove, but note this time the dove is flying to the northwest. So the dove starts off by going to the northeast and then changes direction to the northwest. Now you could almost say that's a point left right, I guess, if you wanted to look at it from a Masonic point of view. But all in all, a beautiful church. Great, well, it's St Columba's Church in Derry. This church has been here, it's a Catholic church, it's a most wonderful church. And I think, in my own personal viewpoint, it's probably the best church on the actual island of Ireland. It's got so much history to it. The actual structures and that go back to around about 300 AD, but the actual main church was the current church that you see today, the structures, that comes from 1783. So when we bring that forward in time, it was certainly a really prevalent place in the Troubles, when the Troubles of Ireland were going on, which wasn't that many decades ago. So it had a lot of support and a lot of interesting tales from the days of the Troubles, really. But as a church, as it goes as a whole, when I walked in, it made me feel so very energetic. It made me actually cry. So it's weird, and it wasn't a tearful cry. Just tears were coming out of my eyes when I went to sit down to say a prayer and things. So some people say, "Oh, that's just rubbish," but I know what I experienced, and that's amazing. It's an amazing experience. It's been a lot of years since I walked into this particular church, and it's a pleasure to be back and an honour to be back and actually be able to walk back into it again today. So St Columba's Church in Derry, worth a visit. We can't film inside sadly because that would be disrespectful, because there are people undertaking prayer at the moment, but certainly my friend Janice has certainly took enough pictures to show everybody online and on the websites that Janice holds, the Priory websites, to show you the various pictures and arts that are inside. There's an abundance of artwork inside, which is probably one of the most spectacular collections in the whole of Ireland. So really worth a visit here in Derry. It's a beautiful place, it's a wonderful place, it's a really vibrant place.